Near mint condition, the home of collected editions.
That cover's so awesome.
Absolute format is the best way to own this store. Time to empty those wallets and fill those shelves. How's it going, all you minties? Uncanny Omar here from Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions, and join me today for an overview of these 3 Clover Press books. So, let's go ahead and get started. Now, before going any further, I do want to thank all the folks at Clover Press for sending us copies of these books. All of these books are already out. They came out this past summer, so all of them are out already in the direct market and book market. So we're looking at 3 books. We're looking at the hardcover of Popeye Variations, which is freaking amazing. I can't wait to talk about that. We're looking at the softcover of Tom the Dancing Bug, Volume 3, and then the Tragedy of Macbeth, which actually, let's take a look at that one. I'll put timestamps in the description of the video so you can jump around. But before I go any further, smash that like button, please. That goes a long way for us here on the channel if you're enjoying the content of these videos. Okay, let's go ahead and start. I usually save this part for the middle of the video, but since there's only 3 books I'm doing an overview of, here's all of the spines together. Okay, now that gives you an idea of what they look like as far as size, but they are different dimensions here to kind of give you a better idea. This is like a trade paperback. So let's put that one here, and then this is a little bit smaller, but it's longer. And then, of course, the hardcover is a different dimension right there. Let's start with this one here, the Macbeth book. So here we have the Tragedy of Macbeth. This is the one that came out this past July, I believe. This is a trade paperback. And this one is done by Stuart Kenneth Moore. However, it is by William Shakespeare, of course. But the graphic novel adaptation is by Stuart Kenneth Moore. And they do go on and tell you earlier on that this is an adaptation not of the actual story, but of the play. So we're talking about a play from many years ago. I mean, Shakespeare died over 400 years ago. So it's really interesting to see just how relevant this story still is. If you're not familiar with the story of Macbeth, it's a William Shakespeare story about this man, like the title of the book, named Macbeth, who, with a friend of his, what was his name? Banquo, they are told by 3 witches, although there are 9 here, because again, this is based on the play, so it's a little bit different, that Macbeth will become the Thane of this of the kingdom of Duncan, King Duncan, and eventually he will be king. And then they tell Banquo that he will not be king, but somebody in his lineage will be. Now, those are wonderful news, and of course, Macbeth is like, I'm going to get to be king. And he goes back to the witches, but they all disappear by the time he goes back. So he goes back to the kingdom, and sure enough, he's made Thane of the kingdom. And then he goes back to tell his wife, King Duncan wants to pay him a visit. And this is when Lady Macbeth steps in and says, you know what? Why don't we rush this prophecy and just kill the king, and you can be king? And at first, Macbeth's like, no, I can't do that. What are you talking about? And she's like, oh, come on, you wuss. And he pretty much does it. And I swear, I hope you're not in school and there's a test for Macbeth, because I'm so trimming that story down to the bare minimum. And if you're thinking about getting the graphic novel, this is a lot closer to the story than my version of the story. So, of course, they kill the king. Is there spoilers? Do I need to put a spoiler tag on this? Because it's like 400-year-old story. They kill the king, and then horrible things after horrible things just keep happening, because both Lady Macbeth and Macbeth start having visions of the people that they've killed. Because it doesn't just end with one person, much like every other sin. You know, you just keep doing it over and over, and it gets easier, or so you would think. But the visions of ghosts and apparitions keep coming back, and then the witches tell him something else, right? Like they're like, oh, the trees, when the trees come to life, that's when you should worry. And no woman or no man born of woman can kill you. And of course, there's a little bit of twist to that. The artwork in here is freaking creepy, though. Like, seriously creepy, because it's based on the play. Now, the play does omit a couple of characters from here, but the basis of the story is still there. And honestly, I've noticed a couple of additions, and the only reason I know is because we had to do the play when I was in the 8th grade in Catholic school. There's some additions that I think the writer took liberties with. I haven't had a chance to read the afterword, but there is differences done double. So I'm assuming this is where he explains what the differences between the story and the play and the graphic novel is. Now, what's really cool is that also included in this particular graphic novel is the complete play script by William Shakespeare. If you and your friends want to reenact that particular play. Now, again, this is based on the play, the Scottish play, hence the name Macbeth. This book has 160 pages, and it retails for $24.99. It is all in black and white. The paper stock is this thick matte paper that they're using. Really absorbs those blacks. And I really like his artwork. I mean, the 9 witches that appear towards the beginning are just freaking creepy. They look horrid. Wow. So yes, this one almost made it into my hidden gems for the month of October. Because I always do like a horror type of hidden gems for October. But you know what? It's good. You should still check it out if you're into horror. It's a really interesting take on the story of Macbeth. The complete Tom the Dancing Bug, 1999 to 2002. Volume 3, On the Trail of Tom the Dancing Bug. Comics by Reuben Bowling. And this is something that was completely new to me. I had never heard of Tom the Dancing Bug. And if you're expecting to find Tom the Dancing Bug through these pages, you're going to be disappointed because there is no Tom the Dancing Bug. And to kind of preface what I mean by I didn't hear about this, this was an original comic strip that would appear in newspapers, mainly in New York and the surrounding areas. I live in Kentucky. Maybe that's why I never heard of it, nor did I hear about the webcomic, but here is some wonderful praise from people you may know, like Neil Gaiman, Mark Hamill, David Cross, Patton Oswalt, Weird Al Yankovic, and Seth Meyers, Peter Segal, Gary Gulman, and Matt Groening, just praising the work of Reuben Bowling. So there is an introduction here about Tom the Dancing Bug, and there's also a link to the webcomic. I believe he's taken this onto the Substack if you want to keep up with like daily episodes, or I think he does them weekly now. But this all started back in the early 90s. In 1990, it was a newspaper strip, like I was saying, and it grew from there. It got so big that he started selling it to like 60 different papers. Again, not in Kentucky, or maybe not that I heard of. What's really interesting, and I haven't had a chance to read all of it, is that even though it's volume 3, you can jump right in. It's a comic strip, right? These are comic strips that would appear in newspapers. So it's not like there's one continuing story. There are returning characters through these pages, but a lot of it is just satire. I mean, this is like making fun of the Teletubbies, probably the jokes we were all telling at the time. But there's some really interesting characters. Like, this is Godman that keeps coming back. He is the superhero with omnipotent powers. And this is the type of comic strip that to expect from here. Godman senses that there's trouble. This young kid, his hamster's missing. So, or I'm sorry, her, because he does call her. She shouldn't be watching. So Godman uses his total control over all that exists in the universe, and Fluffster is retrieved. Meanwhile, she was watching the news, and Godman again changes the channels without the remote and returns to his god hideout. And he mentions she shouldn't be watching the news. It's depressing. So it's things like that. Now, what's really interesting about this particular collection here is that you'll notice the dates down here. And things take a turn for more of a political satire than what it was, or at least what I noticed. Billy Dare's another one of his recurring characters. He's kind of like Dennis the Menace meets Tintin. I need to show this one strip. Some of them are in color, and so this is the one I was talking about. So this is after Billy Dare ends up defeating one of his villains, and he's sitting at breakfast with his mom and dad. But the narration is so awesome. So the dialogue they're delivering is a lot different than what they're actually thinking. Like, his dad is thinking having a son who is an adventuring prodigy wore on Michael, who hated his job at Datacrex. Just things like that. Like, he's jealous of his son. And is this my reward? He thought as he first of all, masticated. Nice choice of words. Bovine flesh folded into fried cornmeal. Hey, I blew up one of Mordu's headquarters today. And then his mom's thinking different things too. Lisa thought about her mother. She had pitied her mother's life when she was a child. And she just says, wonderful. Is this cheddar? Like, it's conversations like that. So it's very, it's satirical, right? Like, and that's the kind of stories you're going to be reading about. And again, they're all kind of standalone stories. They stand on their own. And I showed you the Teletubbies, but there are other type of characters that appear through here. Some that you may be familiar with. Here, let me, like these group of characters here. And I love this right here. It says, apologies and thanks to Charles Schulz. And it is just Charlie Brown walking around talking about impending doom that is coming and why nobody seems to be paying attention. Like, he goes to all of his friends talking about how everything is just going to end, and they're like, yeah, I'm busy playing level 12 of this particular video game. I can't talk right now. I've got a play date, then soccer, then piano. I can schedule you in for Tuesday. Even Lucy's like, sorry, Pokemon's on in 5 minutes. This is Pigpen, sorry. Pigpen comes out, and Charlie Brown's like, Pigpen, do you feel, hey, you look great. And he says it's Ritalin. I've got to go. Those crack me up. I don't know why. And then Charlie Brown's just sitting here going, well, things sure are different, but I guess this millennial anxiety is all in my imagination. And he comes Snoopy with a sign that says the end is near, to kind of solidify exactly what Charlie Brown was fearing. So it's jokes like that. There's also the reoccurring super fun pack comics that feature different characters through here and with some different frames on the right hand side, almost like making fun of the old comic strips, like maybe like the Family Circus a little bit. But like I mentioned, things changed after 9/11. This book seems to be a little more in your face about the political jokes that it told, or political satire. So there's a little bit of a delay. So you go from 9/10, because it was a weekly comic strip, to 9/24. And this all just states that terrorists destroy the World Trade Center, killing thousands. Like, every one of the panel, the jokes ends with that. So it's not really humor, but it's more about making people aware. And it was a really weird time, right? When people, like, late night talk shows were worried that we were never going to be able to laugh again as a country. And he took it upon himself to kind of let people know and make them aware of, like, how he himself stands on the whole subject matter. But by the time we get to the next week, we get more of the kind of jokes, but like I said, with a more social commentary. Like, Godman is now fighting Osama bin Laden and a group of terrorists. There's a story about Uncle Sam through here. So it seems like it changed after that. But then again, a lot of comedy did back then in 2001. So this collects all the way until the ending of 2002. And this is Letters Home from the Subway series that was originally published in 2000. So there's a little bit of extras back here. And then Other Dancing Bug from Clover Press. So, like I mentioned, there is no Tom the Dancing Bug. And this is a soft cover. And lots of it is in black and white, but some of it is in color, as you saw. The book retails for $26.99, and this particular volume has 248 pages. Last but certainly not least is Popeye Variations, Not Your Pappy's Comics and Art Book. And that's what exactly it's called. This is done by Craig Yo. who has done some stuff for Popeye, I think at IDW, if I'm not mistaken. But this is a hardcover with some thick, glossy paper stock. And there is an introduction here if you're not familiar with who Popeye is. And here is your dedication. I'm going to try to read this as Popeye would. But then again, he mumbles a lot. And sometimes I do the same. Dedicated to me #1 best friend, Ted Adams. That was a little country twang there. Too much country. Tone it back some. And me #1 best friend, Robbie Robbins. So there you go. That's my best Popeye impression. And this gives you a little history as to the creation of Popeye, where he came from, the mind that he came from. And that is, of course, E.C. Seeger. Now, I think it was IDW that was releasing the actual collections of the comics. And there's been many books. But what this does is take the character of Popeye and friends, like Olive Oyl and Bluto, and different artists do portrays of those characters. And this goes from, oh yeah, that looks exactly like Popeye, to what the hell am I looking at? And it is so freaking awesome. Like this one here is by Nate Baer, and we're not going to flip through all of these. This is a mashup type of piece of art right there. Get a nice ribbon. So it's a red ribbon. And Art Deco, modern pop art. There's all kinds of different... That kind of reminds me of Ren and Stimpy. But there's all kinds of different art styles through here. Nice. And all of it featuring the character of Popeye and friends. This one here is by Kelly Jones, who a lot of people probably are familiar with his work on Batman. Like, he did all the covers for Nightfall. He actually drew Batman with Doug Minch writing those particular stories. But he's one hell of an artist. I loved his Batman Red Rain trilogy. But there's probably a lot of artists you're going to recognize through here. Love this. It's just Popeye punching Bluto right there. Or Frankenstein's monster. And then comic strips celebrating Popeye's 90th anniversary. 90! Golly. I used to watch a lot of the reruns as a kid. My favorite one was the Popeye the Sailor's, I think it was Sinbad. Meets Sinbad the Sailor. I love that one where he goes to the island and has to fight those monsters. Those were my kind of stories. Yeah, fantasy. But it tells you who exactly was working on the particular comic strip and their different art styles. Now, this book retails for $39.99, but it has 120 pages. And as you can see, it's more than just an art book celebrating Popeye's 90 years. It's also comic strips collecting through here that celebrate Popeye's 90 years. It's a very anime one right there. And then some more art. Okay, I'll stop there. Just butchering his voice now. So it does have sewn binding right there. It lays over nice. I mean, we're looking at 120 pages. It's not like it's a heavy book. It's beautiful presentation, though. And the final picture with the red end sheets, just like the front here. But that, as they say, is that. If you're interested in any of these books, please don't forget to check out our sponsors. CheapGraphicNovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget that CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content, the page count, and build of these books. Let me know in the comments down below if you are picking any of these up, if any of them piqued your interest, if you've heard of any of these books in the past, and what other Clover Press books you're enjoying or you are excited for. If you have any questions, leave them down below. Don't forget to smash that like button on the way out. Check out our Patreon and Spreadshop. Amazing ways to support the channel if you can do so. Everyone, stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.